You're now listening to From the Jump.
Welcome to From the Jump, your source for all things hip-hop. I'm Syllable. This is my co-host,
Mr. White.
Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment below saying, I subscribed, and we'll try our best to reply to your comment. And we're here to talk about Lupe Fiasco's new album, which is titled
Drill Music in Zion.
And so here's what a common misconception is, because Lupe Fiasco is from Chicago, and you're from the Chicago area as well. People were thinking, oh, Lupe's finally doing drill music, right?
Yeah, of course. Right?
Now we can have some little Dirk features, have some posthumous King Von samples, and it's all going to go down.
Get some Pop Smoke on there.
Right.
Some G Herbo. You know, all of the drill greats, right?
Right, now. And then people are like, this ain't drill music. What is this? Right? And it's because Lupe Fiasco was really referring to a scene in The Matrix Reloaded when Zion, which is called like the safe haven for all the humans from the killer robots that are taken over, and the robot machines, the Sentinels, are trying to drill down on Zion. And so he's talking about drill music in Zion in that context.
Or he could also be talking about Zion as the Holy Land, as it's often referenced as. And if you think about it, it's kind of a oxymoron type of thing, because if you think of the Holy Land, right, you're not really going to be talking about killing and murdering people in heaven, I don't think, right? You know, so he's really kind of trying to paint that picture of the two different opposing sides.
We'll get to painting pictures later on. But So, you know, it's interesting, right? Because he did something different than any other mainstream artist out there right now, where he was able to go real low-tech with this and recorded the whole album in 3 days, meant for it to be in 24 hours, got it done in 3 days, and I think we can feel that continuity and that vibe, right? Contrast that with Mos Def and Talib Kweli's album that came out, where it sounded like it was real cut and paste. It sounds like he's captured the same mood in those, 3 days that he's in the studio.
Yeah, and I mean, he also took it another step, and he recorded it in GarageBand with a $100 microphone. And I think what he's trying to show overall is that you can make great art with minimal tools. It's not about what brush you use, it's about the painter, right? Yeah. And I think that he's really trying to be an underground guy, even though he is technically mainstream still. But he's really kind of coining himself as that person. He's always stuck to his guns about not wanting to be commercial,
right, and not selling out. And in that same context of not selling out and being original, he had this whole concept, this album, after the Japanese concept wabi-sabi, right? Appreciating the beauty and minimalism and things like that nature. And so we already know Lupe's on that robot trip, right? Which has got some minimalistic aspects to it. Mm-hmm. Now he's bringing the wabi-sabi in there, and I'm just like, all right, let's see how it goes. And so we got the first track, which is actually by his sister, interestingly enough, which I was surprised to know, called Lion's Dean, right? And his sister, Yisha Jaco, comes in. And then after that, I guess just a quick note on that. Similar to a book, where in the first chapter, you kind of get a preview of the themes that are going to be explored in the book later on, Lupe Fiasco's sister just kind of lays it out. Like, this is exactly what we're going to be talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So
yeah, very much like a preface or a forward, and she's coming in with some very strong spoken word. Like, let's not take anything off of what she did at the start of it. It was actually a little too serious for me. I was wondering if this was going to end up being like, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers again, like getting real serious. But, I think it was a great start, right? Yeah. And it shows him really being in tune with hip-hop overall as a culture.
And so what we got for the first actual rap track, and don't mispronounce it, like our friend Anthony Fantano did in his video.
So it looks like, goatee, but no, it's just a different phonetic spelling of fish.
Yes. And
it's very interesting that, once again, Lupe is already playing mind games
with your head.
Yeah, and this song comes in really smooth. Like most of the production on here, very jazzy, where he's really opening it up to show both sides. Like, he's really, throughout this project, showing you the light and the dark, showing you why he feels like he's not innocent. He's not a person that can absolve himself from being a part of what's going on.
Sure.
And I think that he does a really great job of that throughout this whole project. And he has some interesting lines in there. One that I like to highlight is, because they ain't no screams in space. Egyptian museum, they keep the kings in crates. Thrones out on loan, and they keep the rings in safes. And
the rings and safes.
What he's talking about there is the fact that people who were intending to basically take all this stuff with them to the afterlife, their tombs are now being desecrated for the vision of humanity for
Like
people to
Egyptian
make money
mummies.
on.
Like
Yeah.
Egyptian mummy
And
stuff.
he's just talking about like, how good is it to be a king if in the future they're just going to dig you up and put you on display?
Right.
And he's just talking about the harsh realities of humanity, and it's tough.
It is tough. And those lyrics definitely say a lot by saying less. And I think some of my favorite lines, and not Goaty, not Gotti, but Fish, because the GH has got the F sound. The O is actually the sound from women, so it's got the I sound, right? And then the TI, not the rapper, has got kind of intuitions, right? So it
Yeah.
actually is spelling fish.
Yeah.
Crazily enough, is he goes, Assassin's Creed, rapping it back indeed, like a mansion that's lacking fees, tapping the black as keys, capture catastrophes like a camera feed, ball like a can of peas, fall like Michael Jackson and anesthese, mistaken made it some manatees, Neuralink is now piloting all your fantasies, mistaken the sanitation for sanity, my mistake, I'm mistaken staying for cannot leave. And that whole trap, whether you're trapped in an institution like we have with the system as it is, or you're trapped in a relationship that you don't want to be in, or you're trapped in like the school system, right, where they're not helping out or explaining shit, or you're trapped in just a situation like the block wars, right? It keeps going on, right? And it's like mistaken staying for cannot leave, right? It's so much there. And I love that shit. Lupe then ends the track with a reference to the title, in case any of y'all are still pronouncing it Goaty, you know. String. They say you can't escape when rich. It's just a bigger plate. They catch and bait with fish. And it's just going to show how Lupe is one of the most like lyrical beasts alive right now. And so
Absolutely.
just love that stuff. What's the next track we got?
So the next track that we have is probably the closest to anything drill on here. It's the Autobotto track. It has a really cool bounce to it, very reminiscent of some trap maybe from 2010 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's the most commercial song on here in terms of viability, the upbeat nature
and
of
it's
it,
got a
the
music
flow.
video. Yeah.
Right. And I think it was cool that he definitely was like, all right, I'm gonna give y'all a banger on here. I'm gonna give y'all one good banger on here. And he just goes in from the start of the chorus. It just felt really good. It's
I love
amazing.
the fucking hook. I defend myself in court. This is sport. I get signals from the source. I can twist and I can tort. I just feel like I'm a Porsche. Like, it's just the staccato rhythm of that just hits me. And like what this feels like to me is that Lupe Fiasco is talking about kind of just the way the system is set up, that these racist ass judges in Chi-Town, like for them, putting away people of color is like a sport, right? They don't care. No. And then I feel like he's also saying that because he is definitely very wealthy and well off and he's a celebrity, that if he has to go before court, he feels more like a Porsche than maybe the average man would, right? And so I feel like that's what some of the lyrics are pointing to. And then he talks later on, he's like, high to the Crips, goodbye to the Bloods. Then he's like, but it was the Souls, the Lords, and the GDs, right? So he's talking about like the culture and Chicago and like what it's like for people that are struggling in that system.
And that twisted contort part and also being like a Porsche, he's also talking about surviving in an environment like that where you kind of have to be very delicate about everything that's going on. He could have ended up another victim of gun violence. Yeah. He could have ended up in prison. There's nothing stopping somebody who grows up on the west side of Chicago, very much like the east side of Austin,
back in the
from
day,
ending up in those types of situations. And I think he's just talking about how smooth he's had to play it. But he's also talking about he is that smooth, that he could get through all of this stuff that's going on. And he's a teacher, man. Like, I love where he starts talking about the part where he's like, why buy a tub when to buy you a flood? Better buy you a sub. How you going to survive in a club? You going to kayak because when it rises above, the waves going to come in and push the titles or shove, right? What's the infrared dot to a whole .gov? And he's just going into that fact that it's bigger than you. You think that what you're doing in the streets means something to these politicians?
Well, and I think he's also pointing
out
at the fact that what we've learned with a lot of police brutality in East Austin here as well, as I'm sure is true in Chicago, is the fact that when we fear the cops more than the criminals, there's a problem that's bigger than this shit. Because as much as the gangs and the GDs and, you know, all them cats may be feared in Chicago, honestly, even as scary as they are, the gov is what we're more afraid of.
And
the
I've
cops
said
are
this
what we're
before
more
in
afraid
other
of.
podcasts. I've had more guns put in my face by police than any criminal,
Right.
any gangbanger.
Same.
My homies, and I've seen them with guns, but they've never drawn a gun on me and threatened my life with it. And that's the reality.
I
It's
was
just the
downtown,
truth.
just near the Austin State Capitol, and I saw a state trooper with an AK-47 strapped across his chest. Ain't no reason for that. No reason for that. There's no warfare here that justifies that. But you see that's the mindset. So then we got the end for the music. So I love the music video, right? So in the music video, Lupe is just doing these really dope hand gestures.
Yeah.
It's just very slick. He's got this cool purple jersey on, right? And at the end, he like floats up into the sky like he's going to heaven. And then Naira then just sings out, the chorus again. And it's, very lush and very jazz-centric. And then she takes us on as well with another lo-fi sound with the kind of cool melody intro with Precious Things. So Naira is also coming in with a beautiful hook with that. Sticks in my head when I hear that. I can still hear it in my head right now. It's some dope shit. And, he's got some real profound metaphors about frayed friendships and the like. What do you think about that song?
Well, Precious Things is very troubling when you listen to how it's being posed, because it's the story of how when things were great for people, that it was amazing, but then how soon people turn cold on you, they turn their backs on you, they have different opinions than you, and all of a sudden, all the homies and the friends and the fans that you had, they aren't there for you anymore. And he does so well with the metaphors that he's using, because it's all about hand gestures.
Yeah.
And like you said, you would think it'd be boring, right? Because he's talking about thumbs and hands and how you move your hands. But when you break it down, the way we use our hands, especially in black culture, we're known to be very animated.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of handshakes. There are a lot of different things that people do with their hands, even worldwide. So I think he picked a really good metaphor that could kind of be universal, because people recognize what your hands do no matter where you are in the world.
Well, some of the lyrics that stick out to me for that is he says, I swore my hands were pure. I gave him manicures, became my adversaries, became my saboteurs. I put carrots on them, just like some rabbit lures. My middle finger's like, fuck this N-word, what happened to us? And then the verse ends with, give me a sign when we can talk through a plan. But my hands is like fan. You can talk to the hand. Damn. And I love that. I love that. In the third verse, Lupe's rapping, it's like you could have did more to try to keep us out of them handcuffs. It's like we only matter when the fans is putting their hands up. You got popular, treated us like Yakuza. You were the vampire hunter D, now you Aluka, which is Hebrew for vampire. And it's really referencing how white people went from being terrified of black people and hunting them like vampire D to then trying to be the vampire and suck their culture out and make millions on it. Right? It's such a clever and tragic metaphor that he's making here. And not many people are going to pick up on that.
And I love how he's throwing it back and giving a kind of paying homage to Japanese culture with the Yakuza. And they're also talking about Vampire Hunter D and Alucard, which are both very popular animes. Obviously, Vampire Hunters was about vampire hunters, and Alucard was about a vampire who was very prominent and powerful.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool that he's using so many different plays on words and metaphors.
I think Lupe Fiasco is making a bigger metaphor here for hip hop as a whole. I think honestly what he's saying with these tracks is he's saying, basically that these white people that are bumping these lyrics at the club don't realize that they're part of why these lyrics are said in the first place. And they're hearing this popular rapper rap about, his friends or his fam getting shot in the streets. And they don't realize that when they've gentrified the hood, when they've redlined all these districts, right, when they've got the systemic racism in the police force and the law enforcement and how laws are written even, right, and they're part of that, or their families are, their friends are, and they're dancing just without a care, either willfully ignorant or actually ignorant of how their own actions and this society have led to the reason why these lyrics are even being said the way they are.
Yeah.
And so I think Lupe is making this overarching metaphor that hip-hop itself is the new Blood Diamonds.
So, yeah, no, I definitely agree that he's trying to show people that they're contributing to the problem by engaging, enjoying it, consuming this type of art. Because if you consume the darkness, what's going to happen. People are going to make more stuff like that. People are going to copycat it because they see the success in making drill music or gangster rap music. So what are they going to do? They're going to do the same thing. They're going to follow suit. And so we definitely need a change of guard as far as this is concerned. And maybe it'll never happen because the music industry is money hungry, right? And they know that controversy sells.
Well, and I think that's part of the problem is that a lot of the white record execs are pushing something that they feel is stereotypical of what black behavior is. Not without a reality check. That's not everything. There's so many different layers to that. So what did you guys think about this? We're going to review the rest of this album in the following videos just because it's packed with so many lyrical masterpieces here. We got to split this video up. But comment below on what your favorite track is so far on Lupe Fiasco's new album, Drill Music in Zion. And catch us on the flip side for the next episode of From the Jump.
Peace.